up, everybody? Welcome back to Chats with the Freak. My name is Emmy, and today I have an artist out of Pittsburgh by the name of Maleena, who has a variety of talents and is such a great artist out of the area. How are you doing today, doll?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing as good as I can be in this whole quarantine nonsense, and I know everything going on in the world has definitely affected everybody, and you're in the vast majority of it that it has definitely affected, which is what that new single is that you just dropped is pretty much about. So can you explain to me what Don't Forget Me is about?
Yeah, my single Don't Forget Me that I just released the music video for is all about how senior year has been canceled for me and a lot of my friends and for everybody around the world, and how we just won't get a conclusion to high school, and we need to focus more on the positive memories that we already made instead of focusing on what we're missing out on.
Yeah, exactly. That definitely is one of the biggest things that everybody has been talking about. And I can't even imagine what you're going through, but I think it's great that you took a very negative thing and made it into a positive with a single.
Thank you.
So, is this going to be part of like an EP or an album or anything? Or was it just like, oh, I have this idea that's really cool right now that I want to express myself, and you just released a single?
Well, I was supposed to put out an EP next month, but recording got postponed, and I already had a pretty good demo of this song recorded, so I just decided I would improve upon it and mix it and master it and put it out as a single.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And it's definitely, I know a lot of artists right now are taking this time to kind of look at what they have already done that they can put out and kind of keep everybody busy and keep themselves occupied for sure.
Yep, that's exactly what I've been trying to do.
So, on top of the single that you guys just put out, you also are a part of Chip and the Charge Ups, which for anybody who is listening to this is another band out of Pittsburgh. And you guys had your album release party postponed, unfortunately, due to everything going on. But your album that you guys put out did not get postponed. Lightning in Our Veins, I believe was the name of it. I can't find my note on that.
Yes, it is Lightning in Our Veins.
Okay, I want to make sure I didn't mess that up. The album was really good. I know I reviewed it for MSU, and I really thought it was very solid. Can you kind of tell me about that record a little bit?
Yeah, this was the first Chip and the Charge Ups record that I actually got to be a part of the recording process. We started recording it in December of 2018, maybe a little bit before that, maybe November, if I'm remembering correctly, but it was over a year-long project that we all just got to collaborate on for the first time, because our first two albums my dad had recorded himself and with studio musicians. And so this was a really big deal for me, Jeff, and DJ. And so we're really proud of the collaboration that we get to put out. You can really see the musical chemistry in this album compared to the last two albums that we put out. And we just really think that it's the best music that we've put out so far.
I definitely fully back that up, and I think it's going to be one of the best albums that at least the Pittsburgh music scene will see this year. I thought it was very solid. The production on it was great, and you guys had a cover on it for The Tide is High, and the video for that was very fun. I'm still very grateful you guys let me be a part of that, and that was such a great day up in Erie filming that.
Yeah, absolutely. We're so glad that you were able to be a part of that.
Yeah, that was such a fun day and such a fun shoot, just chilling on the beach recording a video. That was definitely so awesome. But I definitely did not want to hear that song for about a month after that.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about how you got started in music. Obviously, you were around it, but what made you kind of inspired? Because I know that you play bass, but I think that you play a couple other instruments and dabble in some other stuff. So I kind of wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah, so obviously music has been around me my whole life, and pretty much ever since I was a kid, I wanted to be a musician. Um, So when I was in kindergarten, I believe, I bought myself a guitar. I saved up $40, which is a lot of money for like a 5-year-old. And I bought myself a guitar, which is actually the guitar that my dad just used in his quarantine riff day 18, I believe. Um, so I never really learned how to play that because I was like 6. And then when I got to 3rd grade, we started playing recorder for our music class. And my teacher told me that I was excelling above everybody else, and she thought that I should participate in some other musical things. So I joined the school choir and orchestra, and she also gave me a pamphlet to audition for the Children's Festival Chorus of Pittsburgh. So by the time I was like 8 or 9, I was already involved in so much musical stuff. And then I discovered the beauty of rock music. And I joined For Those About to Rock Academy, which is where I started playing bass. And then I went to School of Rock after that, and I still played bass and I played a little bit of guitar. But around that time, I also wanted to start writing my own music. And I wrote a couple songs and I put them out on my YouTube channel, but nothing really came of that. And then around the time my dad started making his band around 2018, he was auditioning bassists, and he just couldn't find someone who was a right fit. So he'd just call me and say, "Hey, Maleena, can you fill in? We need a bassist." And then before I knew it, I was the full-time bassist of Chip and the Charge-Ups. And around that same time was really a big step in my musical progress. I started writing my own music. I started learning how to use Pro Tools so I could record and mix my own music. And that's kind of when I decided that I wanted to put out my own music. And now here I am.
Yeah, that's an awesome story. Like I love that. I love people that find what they love to do at like such a young age and then just keep like grinding at it. You're still like you're what, 18?
Yeah.
Okay. You're still like so young and you're so knowledgeable and I love that. And that's one of the reasons I really wanted to bring you on because you're so knowledgeable in what you do and I absolutely love that.
Thank you.
I do want to talk to you about some of your inspirations because I know we both share a love for Youngblood. But I kind of
Yes.
wanted to, yeah, I love Youngblood and I think he is still so underrated. But what are some of the other artists that you like pull from for inspirations when you're writing?
One of my biggest inspirations for like my acoustic music, because most of the music that I write is on acoustic guitar, is Butch Walker. He has some amazing songs that are just like him and acoustic guitar or something like that that are really just amazing songs, and that kind of inspires me. If he can do something like that with an acoustic guitar, I can do something as well, maybe not as good as him, but I just love his acoustic music. Um, some other artists that really inspire me that are on the more pop end, obviously, I love Youngblood, and I've really been into some other artists lately, like Swimmers, and I don't know how, but they found me. They kind of have a more edgy sound, which I try to bring into my music. Obviously, not with "Don't Forget Me." And then, obviously, my last single, "Uninvited," which I put out last summer, was influenced by Billie Eilish.
Yeah, I love her. And I'm a big I Don't Know How But They Found Me fan. I'm really glad that you mentioned them because they're one of those bands I still feel is like super underground. And I don't know why or how they are underground, but they are so unbelievably talented. I saw them last year down at the Rex Theater in Pittsburgh and they just put on such a killer show. I don't know. Dallin just gives me like a little bit of a David Bowie vibe when he's playing with them. And it's just, oh, it's so good.
Yeah, they're one of my biggest influences for my more pop music for sure.
Yeah, they're so incredibly good. I think that's all I have for you today, Maleena. Thank you so much for taking time to talk with me today. And everyone, go check out the video that I will link in the bio for this for Don't Forget Me. Thank you again for coming on today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
And have a great day.
You too.
Herself up so high, she likes to set the speed. I'm up the way with my eye. I can take care of all your needs. Let it blow, gotta breathe. Liquid love, tell it if it touch me. Feel the rush, wanna scream. Hit it hard, no, you'll never let it be. Let it blow, gotta breathe.
The other day, I used Zoom for the very first time, and I was like, how does this work? I couldn't hear anything. I couldn't talk. And all everyone was seeing was just my face and me like avidly like hitting my phone. Like, why isn't this working?
I used Zoom also for the first time last week, and everyone was like, "Oh, it's super easy. It's user friendly," and eventually it was. But at first, I was like, "Where is everything?"
Yeah, the permissions on it are really weird.
Yeah.
Working it because you have to allow it to play audio, which was bizarre to me. And then you had to like allow your phone to work. And I'm just like, what is this? It was easier for me to share video than it was for me to like listen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so weird. How do you pronounce your first name? I don't want to mess it up.
Oh, it's okay. It's Gerrod.
Oh, it's just shared. Okay, I wasn't sure, and like I dead ass was on Google, and I was like, I don't want to mispronounce this or sound dumb.
I
I thought it was shared, but I always like to check.
No, I appreciate it. Funny story with that. When we actually started the band, our guitar player Cecil thought my name was pronounced Gerrod, and which I've never met someone named that, and
Yeah.
he told our singer Mike and our bassist Chris, like, oh no, his name is Gerrod, and both of them were like, no, that's not a name. And for months no one called me by a name until one day at practice Cecil was like, Gerrod, can you pass me that? And I was like, what did you call me? And for everyone else in the band, they were like, oh my god, I told you that's not his name.
That's really funny. Yeah, my name, my actual full name is Emily, but it's spelled differently. And usually when people call me, like from when I was in college and stuff, they would call me Amali because that's how it's spelled. And it's like, no, it's Emily. It's not Amali.
That's pretty funny. Yeah.
I can relate. So you guys just released a new video for your single Blow, which was pretty cool. I dug it a lot, and it was pretty interesting. I got some different like vibes off of kind of how you guys were, like the instrumentals kind of gave me one vibe, and how like your singer had the vocals set up. Can you tell me a little bit about the track?
Oh, thank you so much. It's a really fun song for us. It's definitely among, I want to say the groups, but especially my own favorites to play live. And I mean, it kind of just started off with like a jam, building off of a riff. And, at first, I think it was, I could be mistaken with this, but I think it was like a riff that Chris and I had worked up, and it sounded a little more metal, which is more Chris's thing. And we brought it to practice, and Mike heard it and loved it, but he wanted it to be a little more sleazy, a little more Joe Perry 70s rock, which is more my thing and Mike's thing. And it kind of took this direction, and the riff just kind of grew from there into a song. And when we brought it into the studio, right, we worked with Murray Daigle as our producer with us at Phase One Studios in Toronto. He recorded the previous EP with us. Great guy, great studio. And he just has this. he just gets us. He knows how to make the song really big. He knows how to make it kind of get that vibe. You know, one of the best things he can say if he hears something he likes, he's like, it's vibey, you know, and like that's what he goes for. He wants to create music that has that sort of atmosphere, that sort of energy to it. And I think with this song we really did that. And it's, you know, it's got that sort of 70s 80s rock guitar, you know, larger than life feel to it, but at the same time, you know, Mike and I talked about putting in some harmonies on the vocals in the verse, and that's, you kind of get this sort of haunting Alice in Chains thing going on. You know, it's a really cool song that way.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely, when I listen to you guys are very original and I really like that. But there were also some elements, like you said, with Alice in Chains. I definitely picked up on that. I'm a huge Chains fanatic. They're my all-time favorite.
Absolutely love Alice in Chains.
Yeah, they're my absolute all-time favorite. I had the honor of photographing them last year on the Rainier Fog tour, and that was kind of a highlight for me. I absolutely adore them. So when it came to like the harmonies that I was hearing, and I also checked out the EP that you guys put out in 2018, the harmonies on that definitely gave me a vibe. But there was something you guys were kind of reminding me of in a way, and I can't place it. And I'll figure it out eventually, but there was definitely something. I thought it was kind of Tool, but that's not really what I was thinking of. There was definitely something I was grasping for. So maybe now that you said about you guys are really into like 80s and 70s rock, maybe I'll like re-listen to like some of those bands and be like, oh, that's it. But there's definitely something else there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the first slightest comparison that we've gotten to Tool, which, you know, makes my day. I love Tool. Chris loves Tool, but you know, I don't think we actively dig into anything remotely progressive when we're playing. So I mean, I don't. As the drummer, I avoid playing progressive drums.
For sure. So as a drummer, I have to ask you this question. How are you a Sean Kinney fan?
I am, yeah. I think Sean Kinney, he's a very simple, straightforward drummer that plays what the song needs to be played, but he plays these kind of phrases, especially on like the Jar of Flies EP, you kind of hear them come out more, but he kind of has these like phrases or fills, these little ad-lib things that no one would really think of, and they're not complicated, but no one else has done them before or since.
For sure,
yeah.
For sure. I'm a huge Sean fan.
Yeah, he's just very creative behind the kit, without overstepping into something crazy technical. It's refreshing.
Yeah, for sure. I remember I met him a couple of years ago, the first time that I saw Chains outside of the venue, and he was one of the most hilarious yet humble human beings I have ever met in my life, and I absolutely adore that man.
Nice. I mean, they all look like cool guys, right? I haven't met any of them. I'd love to, but
yeah. Yeah, they're all really awesome, and I don't know them by any means, but I've seen them a bunch of times, and I got the honor to meet them a couple times, and I absolutely adore them for sure. So, Blow was the first single that you guys have put out since you guys put out the 2018 debut EP. Is that right?
Yes, we put out the 2018 EP. I've Got Something to Say, and in I think March 2019, we put out a separate single and music video from that EP for Itchin' Back. So Blow is like our first brand new song since 2018.
Okay, cool. I was reading that a couple of times and I kind of got a little confused, so I wanted to make sure I had my info right on that. How was the debut EP like received in as far as like your fan base goes?
Oh, the way it was received blew me away, because I mean, when you spend a couple of years writing songs and perfecting them from a performance standpoint, and then, you know, eventually you bring them into the studio, and I mean, that EP, the recording process started in September 2017. So we were kind of done recording, I want to say by it went into the new year. So it was like by January 2018, we were done recording it, and then we were kind of sitting on it. And it's almost like being a kid on Christmas, except Christmas isn't the next day. It's in September. It's
Right.
you're really excited to release this, but the whole time that you're excited, you're also kind of like, okay, how is this going to play out, right? How are people gonna like this as much as I like it? And we just wanted to put it out, and we wanted people to enjoy it, but our fans loved it, and we started sending it out to internet radio stations, podcasts, blogs, and suddenly people were like using comparisons like Guns N' Roses and Led Zeppelin and Soundgarden and Alice in Chains and like the Chili Peppers, Queens of the Stone Age, like all these bands that I like. Collectively, we all love those bands, but like I especially like the names that I was getting back. I was like, holy shit, that's so and so, and like I've been listening to that band for like my whole life. It was amazing and completely unexpected that we would be doing something that like I knew that we were doing something that I could be proud of as a musician, but I did not expect to draw up comparisons like that. And that for me was one of the most amazing feelings about releasing music.
That's incredible. I love that. I love hearing artists when they release stuff getting excited when they hear that they're not necessarily compared, but definitely they get thrown in with other artists that they idolize, and that's really awesome. I love that.
I mean, like, we don't sit down and set out to write a song that's gonna sound like Zeppelin or anything like that. I mean, Mike and I absolutely love Zeppelin. For both of us, it's one of our favorite bands, but we don't meet up at practice and say like, let's write a Zeppelin-esque song. Let's do a heavier sort of Alice in Chains song today. Like it's just we all come from very different musical backgrounds. Like Chris is a metalhead, Mike is completely into classic rock. Myself, I'm mostly between like classic rock and 90s rock, and Cecil is all over the map with pop music and jazz, and so when we get into the room together, it's a very organic process that I never know where it's going to go. And even when it's done, when we send out, even when we're sending out Blow to everyone to get reviews and stuff, when we were getting the similar comparisons, it was like, okay, wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love hearing the organicness, because sometimes if you throw and obviously you guys know each other, but if you throw like a bunch of random people in a room and they all pull from different things inspirationally, or what they just listen to, so that's really cool. How did you start drumming? Like, what kind of inspired you to start doing that?
So I was in grade 7, and we had to pick a musical instrument for music class. And I looked around the room, and at that point I had zero interest in music class, because everything before had been like kid songs and recorders, and like I love music from a listening standpoint. Like my mom, from my whole life had me listening to bands like the Chili Peppers and Aerosmith and the Stones. So I love music, but I had no interest in playing it. But I had to pick an instrument. So I looked around the room, and the only thing in that music room at Cedarwood Public School was the only thing that was in a rock band in that room was the drum set. So I went home, and I took the form home that we had to write down our first, second, and third choice. And I told my parents that I wanted to play the drums. But the music teacher said that if we had a drum set at home, he'd be more likely to give that student the drums. And, my parents were so fantastic. They said, okay, well, let's go buy a drum set. So we went to Long and McQuaid, a music chain up here in Canada, and we bought like a beginner drum set. And, they set it up in the basement. They didn't care when I played it, how loud I played it. Again, they were just fantastic about that. But I still didn't really have that much of an interest in playing it. And I had no idea what you would do on the drums. Because, listening to classic rock all my life at that point, I can hear the singer, I can hear the guitar player, and I could hear a guitar solo. And, it's tougher to kind of hear what the drums are doing. And for me, I didn't really understand what the sounds were. So the interest wasn't really there. But like I said, I was a big Chili Pepper fan. And at that point, the Peppers were on tour for the Stadium Arcadium album. And unfortunately, I couldn't get tickets to see them on that tour. But Chad Smith, their drummer, was doing a drum clinic not too far away from me. So my parents took me to see that. And that was kind of one of those moments where I didn't really know what to expect, because I didn't know how you played the drums. I had no idea visually or sonically what that would look or sound like. So I just kind of sat down, and the moment that he walked up and sat behind that drum set, I was completely enthralled with what was going on. And it was kind of one of those moments that I could freeze in time in a memory and be like, yeah, that was the singular moment that I went from having to play the drums to I want to play the drums.
Right. That's such an awesome story. I talked to some other musicians, and some people don't really have an exact moment, but I love hearing when they're like, yes, this was when I wanted to do this. This was when I knew I could do this. And that's awesome.
Yeah,
I love that.
I mean, that was the moment, and, again, my parents were so fantastic. My birthday was a month after that. And they were like, oh, you're not getting a physical gift this year. Something's going to show up. And I was like, okay, that's weird. I was like, what could possibly show up, and in the evening, this guy rings the doorbell, Matt Sullivan, who was going to be my drum instructor. And I had my first drum lesson, and, Matt Sullivan and we've become very close friends since then. But, it was nice to have that environment where I could play the drums at home. And, I had a family that supported music and supported that sort of education.
Yeah, that's definitely a big plus to have such a big support system behind you. And I'm so happy to hear that you had that and everyone was so supportive. Definitely that makes things a lot easier.
Especially when the instrument is so loud.
Yeah, for sure. It's not like you had an acoustic guitar. I definitely get that. So is Blow going to be on an upcoming album, or are you guys just kind of rolling with that as a single for right now?
It's just a single. Our whole year is kind of unfortunately, but understandably, put on hold. We were kind of hyping 2020 to be a year of new music, and we were just happy to be able to release Blow as a single and a video, just kind of under the wire as to when things were starting to shut down. But for now, it is just a single. We're kind of working with the year to see what else can come, but there will be new music on the way.
Definitely understand that, man. It definitely turned everybody's world upside down with all this wild stuff going on. I think that's all I have for you today, Gerrod, and I really appreciate you taking time to talk with me, and I hope you stay safe with everything going on right now.
You as well, and thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for working with me with all the technical difficulties and stuff like that.
Yeah, you
have
too.
A great day,
Bye.
man. Bye.
Play a game, but it's not some stupid competition.
terrible.
Yeah.
Stupid essential work.
Yeah. We can.
I really wanted to have a break from work.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, we're going to be shut down, and I'm going to get to stay home, and I'm going to record music, and it's going to be great. Nope. Fuck you, Ben. You're going to work.
Though if my job had been shut down, you wouldn't have been able to do nearly as much music.
That's true.
Yeah.
You guys aren't allowed to shut down because I have guitars coming
Exactly.
What do you guys do for work?
Well, I'm the assistant manager for the Long McQuaid in town. So just selling musical instruments and making other people sell musical instruments through being assistant manager.
Feel that.
Longy McQuaid is Canada's Guitar Center.
Except better.
Okay.
No.
It's better.
No,
Yeah.
it's just the Canadian version of Guitar Center, except Guitar Center is like 250 locations. Long McQuaid only has like 85 because they're only Canadian.
They're only Canadian. Okay,
Yeah.
that's cool. Yeah, I have a lot of Canadian friends, and you guys are the first Canadian band that I've had on here, so that's pretty cool. So A for that.
And the
Yes,
last.
for that.
No. Oh, and
We ruin things for everyone.
yeah. Oh, Jess and Rob are here.
Can you hear us?
I don't know. Say
You're super
anchovy.
quiet.
Shut up.
Okay, cool. Wow, your microphone sounds way better than mine.
Well, it's the recording one, so yeah.
Oh. Wow, Ben. We look like chumps.
Yeah.
We were the right ones, so.
Right after I was like, I'm not going to do that much work. They come in and do that much work.
Jesus.
I always do a lot of work, you know this.
Right.
That's
I'm
true.
glad everyone figured it out and it wasn't that complicated for everybody, because I've had a couple people have a problem with the link so far, and I'm just like, every time I hold my breath, like, I hope no one has a problem.
It was just through our phones. We couldn't get it working. It didn't allow us to use our microphones. That's why we had to jump on the computer.
Oh, okay.
Oh, good. That makes a lot of sense then, for sure. So thank you all for taking time out of your schedules to come on and talk with me. I know a couple of you guys said you're still working, and it's a crazy time for sure. How is the whole pandemic situation going on in Canada right now? Because I know in the US it's pretty wild.
I think it's a little bit tamer than in the US, just from what we've seen.
Not in the TO, but around our area.
And not in Toronto, but
But even in Toronto, like they enacted like lockdown measures or whatever before the States did, so it kind of shut things down a little.
yeah.
Now,
But
I
yeah,
have a friend in Toronto who says it's like riots everywhere.
Oh my God.
That's what he said.
What?
Riots.
Is that
What are
right?
Canadian riots?
Yeah.
sorry.
It's
Excuse me, pardon me.
actually, that's what COVID-19 is in Canada. Nobody hears the other person say sorry.
Oh, did my fist meet your face? I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's really awful.
That's fantastic. What part of Canada are you all from? Toronto area
No.
or where?
It's northern Ontario. So
Oh,
The
we're
part you can't find on
3
the map.
hours. 3 hours north of Toronto.
okay. That makes sense. I have a lot of Canadian friends, so I kind of know a little bit of the geography, even though I haven't been to Canada. I just kind of know some of it. But yeah, that's crazy. I'm glad that you guys all seem to be doing well though and staying safe in this crazy ass shit that's going on. So you guys put out a new record. Last year was your debut self-titled record. What can you guys tell me about that?
So it was an EP. It was a 6-song EP that originally were songs that Ben and I worked on when I was starting out. We wanted to do like a solo thing, and it was supposed to be more like folky, but acoustic, that sort of thing. But it ended up turning into what it is now. A lot of the songs were written acoustic and on the ukulele and all of that fun stuff. And then they just got heavier and heavier every time we went in and worked on them, and then realized that, the folk thing wasn't going to happen. So
Sorry.
yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of collaboration between Ben and I, because Chris and Robin were they joined after all of that was done, but they'll be working on the new songs that are coming out.
Woo.
Okay, that's really cool. So how did that go about? How did you guys make the transition from like acoustics and like using ukuleles and stuff like that, end up kind of with a mid 2000s like rock vibe? Kind of like when I listened to the EP, it kind of reminded me a little bit of the Sick Puppies in a good way. And I mean that definitely as a compliment. I love the Sick Puppies, but it just kind of had that vibe to me. How did that make the transition?
I started to hit the ukulele against the drums.
That's the only answer I wanted to that. I'm kidding.
I think that's more for Ben to answer, because honestly, like I walked in and I'm like with this like cute little ukulele song, and then about an hour later he sent me like it completely changed into like a pop punk song. So I think he sort of knows better than I would.
Yeah, so I mean, for that reference of time frame, that's a lot of sense, because that's like when I was, you know, late teens, early 20s was in the early 2000s for me. So those were the bands that I loved. How these became that way is we just it was a recording project. So we'd record a guitar part, it'd be acoustic, and I'd be like, oh, let's add some drums to it, you know, just to kind of add a little texture. Then we'd add drums and be like, oh, now it needs some electric guitar. And then I'd be like, those drums should be heavier. And then, ooh, we need more guitar. And it just kind of got out of hand really fast.
It just escalated into this whole thing, and like Newfound Glory just had like a child with your band. It was fine.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Newfound Glory came in and took over. No, I definitely really like the EP, and I'm definitely just messing with you guys. It was really, it's really cool, and I really dug it. And that's weird. I wasn't expecting you guys to be like, oh, we started as a folk band. That's really cool, though.
Yeah, it's something that I like to say because people don't expect it. So, I mean, I didn't expect it.
Yeah, for sure. So like, okay, so now I have a question now. So you guys started as a folk band. What backgrounds do you guys come from, like musically then? Like how do you guys get started like making music?
I mean, I personally come from musical theater. So that's what I did in high school and all of that. And then I took a bit of a hiatus from music for a bit just to do the whole family thing. And then decided I wanted to get back into it, but I've always sort of done very melodic, a lot of harmony, that sort of thing. So this is completely different from me. I love it. I've always liked that sort of music. Like I'm very into the whole Paramore, Evanescence, Flyleaf. Like I love that sort of stuff. So I feel at home still on stage, but yeah, for me personally, this is not the norm, but like I said, I love it. Robin, you want to say something?
Yeah, I was kind of voluntold to play bass. I've never touched a bass in my life until I got into this band, to be honest. And
you were just kind of like thrown into it. Like, here's an instrument, kind of like what they did in Nikki Sixx and Motley Crue. Like, oh, you want to be in this band? Okay, you're gonna play bass.
Yeah,
now.
you're pretty cool. So you're gonna play bass.
Okay, whoa! That was never said.
I had very little experience with guitar as a kid. Yeah, I'd always screw around with it. Like I'm a bit of a metalhead, so I played around with a lot of Iron Maiden, Avenged Sevenfold, stuff like that. And then when they called me up to, hey, we need a bassist to play this.
Let's stop there. We didn't call you up. I'm his wife.
Well, yeah, that worked.
It was
I
kind
came
of
home and I was like, so we need a bass player.
Well, in my defense, it did come as a text first.
Okay, this is true.
So yeah.
You called him from the basement and were like, "Hey, we need a bass player. Are you busy tonight?"
All right. So
Yeah.
they needed a bass player to do their first gig on a New Year's, and so I learned some songs within a month, and it turned out pretty good. And here I am.
Yeah, we'd auditioned a couple bass players, and the last one we'd auditioned was, they're all good guys, and most of them are pretty good musicians, but they just weren't a good fit.
Yeah.
And the last one, the audition was clearly not a good fit. And so, while it was going on, Jess texted Rob and was like, "Hey, you're our new bass player, so get learning the songs."
And I literally picked it up right there and then started playing stuff.
Yeah.
That's an awesome story. I love that. How long have you guys been a band then, since you said that you guys have been through like a couple bass players?
Oh. I mean, we started with one bass player, who he's fantastic. I still consider him like our backup bass player, just because like Robin and I have 2 little girls, and sometimes it's hard to get them watched all the time for us to be able to go do shows. So
Right.
but he is the original bass player that started with the band, is in 2 of the other bands that are on the label, and he just had a baby. So
He spread thin.
yeah, he's spread pretty thin. So I mean, we had him, and then Robin stepped in, and then when we had the last guy who auditioned, based on information that we were given, I had told Robin, like, "Oh, okay, I guess we're not going to need you." But during the audition, I was like, "Okay, no, we actually do need you." So, yeah, I don't think technically, I guess he's our 3rd, but we've only really been an actual band. Like, our EP came out in December, and our first official show was just this past New Year's.
I think November is when we were all together first, though.
Technically,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah. So I'd say November
Okay.
to like a later December.
Well,
To give us another month.
Hey, we did the telethon too.
Yes. The Christmas telethon.
Chris joined the band at the shit show, though, remember, right?
Yeah.
Oh
So
yeah.
that was like
Oh, that was in September. Yes.
The shit show. I want to know about this.
There is a wonderful,
So there's this
little indie festival called Shit Show, just out of North Bay, Ontario, Canada. And it's a bunch of super cool musicians that just basically play in a barn. And it's a shit show.
All pro bono. They just do it to have fun and in the love of music.
Yeah.
And it's a very cool, entertaining night.
Yeah.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I wish we had something like that in the States. I mean, I guess some of our DIY venues could be considered that, but like that just seems really cool. I don't know, and especially with it being called Shit Show. Like that's what I should have called my podcast, was the Shit Show. I love that.
It works. It definitely.
it actually started as a dude's birthday party.
Yeah.
Like it started as Adam's birthday party, right?
Mhm.
Like he was a musician in town, and he would, for his birthday, one of the friends said, "Oh, you come out and play a show at our barn and have some other friends out." So they had a few bands come out and play, and the next year got bigger. And I think this was the 3rd or the 4th year, and they were at, I think 200 or 300 people were out that night.
Yeah.
Like 12
Yeah.
bands or something.
It's I wouldn't be surprised if it was actually more than that, but it's basically a private barn. Like it's it's really cool.
Yeah, that sounds really awesome. Do they have like just normal lights set up, like a normal stage setup, but kind of like in a barn, or how does
quite
it work?
impressive, actually. They did have.
No,
they
you-
did hire a
You're just on the floor of the barn.
sound guy, light show. They had the whole shebang in there.
That's really
Yeah.
cool. I really like that. That's really awesome. Yeah, we don't have anything like that in the States. And I love hearing about different, especially in like a different country like Canada, but even in the States, when it varies from state to state, hearing about the different music scenes and how like different states or cities do stuff differently. It's really interesting, especially like you were saying, like you guys had a barn set up and whatever. That's so cool. I really like that. That's such a cool vibe.
Yeah, it's a small town here, so it kind of is people make do with the resources that they have, and you kind of end up with a lot of really cool little things like that, where it's, you know, this is out of lack of other real options, but it ends up almost better.
Yeah, that's incredible. I really like that. That's awesome. So, I know that Jess was saying that her and Ben kind of were mainly writing the songs. Is that kind of how the band formed? It was mainly like you two, or how did this come together, I should say?
Yeah, it was basically I answered a Kijiji ad for their
Kijiji is Craigslist in Canada.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. You're fine. You're fine.
Yeah, I answered the Kijiji ad for their label. They were looking for people to join. And I basically hadn't been doing music for about 10 years. So I met them, we went for a drink, and I guess they listened to some of my YouTube recordings from like 7 years ago. And I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do, but they liked my voice and they liked me. So they took a leap of faith. And yeah, at the beginning, it was just, I was going to look for a guitarist, but we couldn't really find one. So Ben just ended up being my guitarist. We did all of our writing together. And yeah, so it was really us. Like, I think the only drums that Chris actually did on the EP was on Hair Flip, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so Ben played the instruments for everything else on the EP. Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
It's been a little bit of a journey from what we originally were supposed to do, but again, I'm happy with how it's ended up, especially in such a small amount of time.
Yeah, for sure. Your EP seemed pretty well received. I've seen your guys' band name pop up before, and I'm familiar a little bit with you guys and your music, obviously. And I think it's pretty cool how I see different bands, especially because I didn't know you guys were from Canada until I started like reading up on you guys before this. I honestly thought you guys were from Pittsburgh from how much like I was seeing your name pop up. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I was seeing that. I was seeing different people support, I guess, underground bands, and it's being a community. I love that. I think that's what I love the most about the music community.
Yeah.
Yeah, the amount of support that we got, especially in Music Mania, was sort of overwhelming and unexpected, because here we were, this little band from Canada without a very big following, battling these other bigger bands from there that have a better following, that have more material than us. And not only were we able to compete with them, but we were able to actually win. So that's something that's kind of, it takes you back a little bit.
Surprising.
Very.
I mean, everybody in Canada hates me, so I'm surprised that we got both from me.
Everybody.
I meet anybody, they're just like, wow, I'm not voting for your band. So I'm surprised we won.
Oh my God, that's fantastic. You guys are funny. So this is kind of a general like group question. And I love asking this. I kind of want to know what made everyone like want to pursue music, because I find that sometimes there's like a generalized answer, like I found it in like school or whatnot, or my dad played, or sometimes like there's like an aha, like this is what I wanted to know, what I wanted to do with my life. So I kind of wanted to see what kind of made everyone want to pursue being in music.
Who's going first this time?
Who wants to
go? I banged the lead singer, so.
Oh my God.
That's it. That's not how you got into music.
That's not how you got into music. That's how you got into me.
Well, yeah.
Wow.
That's how he got into music.
Sorry.
I thought I put that out there on the.
Oh,
funny.
good lord. Anyways, so I'm blushing. You guys can't see. Ladies and gentlemen, my husband. Yeah. So for me, I was really young. I guess when I was like 4 or 5, I started singing, and I wasn't very good. But it was something that I've always enjoyed. And then when I was 9, I decided to do a school talent show. And I guess my family were expecting the worst, but I stood up on stage. I sang a song. I believe it was Can't Fight the Moonlight by Leanne Rimes. And they were really surprised, and it just sort of took off from there. I think once what I was doing was a little bit more well received, it made me obviously want to do it more. So that's sort of my journey in music. That's where it started.
For me, it was kind of the same sort of thing as for the age. I mean, I was doing music when I was 4 or 5 in musical theater and piano and everything. And it was really just like, I can't remember what really made me want to do music. Basically, my family would have these get-togethers with everybody coming over and singing, and just like watching everybody get together and just like feeling the music, seeing guitar. I wanted a guitar my entire life, and then I started playing piano instead. I didn't even get to play guitar until I was like 14, but and now I'm playing drums. So music has just been a big part of my life. It's always there when I'm up, down, all around. Yeah.
Even to the side.
Even to the side.
The old sideways.
The old sideways drumming. It's very hard to do, but it's still there. And Ben, go ahead.
I didn't know you wanted to be a guitar player, Chris. I wanted to be a drummer, and my parents said no. Let's trade instruments.
If you could actually, so if you went back to when I was 5 years old, for my Christmas list, there was a guitar on it every single year, and I never got it. I just had to buy it myself in the end.
My grandma was a piano teacher in our town that I grew up in, so I was forced to take piano lessons. So that's how I started playing music. But then, like at the start of high school, I wanted to kind of get into something that wasn't playing hockey because my brother was really good, and I was like, I need something else. So I was like, I'm going to play drums. And my parents were like, no, you're not. We'll buy you an electric guitar and an amp. And I showed that.
That's all amazing. Oh my God. I think that's probably the best answers I've had to that question in a while. I absolutely love that. You guys have been absolutely great. Thank you so much for taking time out of your night to speak with me and be on here. I really appreciate it, guys.
Thank you for having
No
me.
problem. Thank you.
Congrats again on winning Music
you.
Mania.
You do.
Have a great night,
Thanks.
guys.
You too.